This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
If I could recommend one book to photographers on creativity, it would be this book by legendary music producer Rick Rubin, The Creative Act, A Way of Being. Photographers specifically can learn so much from this book. So in today's video, I am going to cover specific areas that I found extremely useful and insightful so that you guys can take these and implement them in your own creative act. One of the first things that Rick Rubin talks about in the book is something called the artist's rhythm. Now, as you can see, I have marked up a lot of pages in this book. I could literally quote and make a video about every single chapter in this book. So I have tried to color it down here. This book is laid out in a linear fashion in that it starts off with the artist's rhythm, which is one of the earlier stages of the process, and then it follows right through to the end point of kind of sharing your work or finishing it off. So in the book, Rick Rubin likens the artist's rhythm to nature. And I found this really interesting because he draws the parallel of nature kind of always being in flux, always moving and changing with the seasons. And I think us as artists, we have seasons where we are really creative. We might be taking a lot of photos. And then we have seasons where we aren't really picking up our camera at all. I love that he set this up straight away in the book because it grounds us. And we're then aware that this is something that people in all creative pursuits will have to face. And once you accept that we are just like nature, we aren't going to be on all the time. We're going to be, changing and growing. Things are going to be forming and then they're going to be dying, like our ideas, just like it is in nature. It just made me feel more secure and able to move forward with like a solid foundation and understanding of that. Something else that Rick talks about in this chapter is art being the circulation of energetic ideas. And this could kind of sound like a bit of a woo-woo statement, but it really isn't when he breaks it down. He talks about the idea that if you sit on an idea for too long or you hang on to it for too long, it will kind of get released into the universe and likely be picked up by someone else. And I think we can all relate to this in you've had an idea for years and then you see someone else do it. Like you see someone do a photography project or release a photo book or a YouTube video or whatever it is, and you go, oh, I had that idea, and you're kind of annoyed. And he kind of addresses this in a really great way, saying that either that idea wasn't meant for you, it was meant for someone else, or it was simply just the idea's time to flourish and be brought to life. So it's just a part of life, the circle of life, the circle of art and creativity. And you can just accept that and know that another idea will kind of come along because it is this circulation of energy and creativity. In this chapter, Rick Rubin talks about the inspiration phase, and this is where you're having a lot of input. And he talks about how your environment will impact or sway that inspiration, and that will eventually have an impact on your output. He talks specifically about the 3 types of environments that an artist can use to have input. The first one is being out in the elements, being exposed to things like the sun, the stars, the wind, being in these solitary, quiet spaces, these big open spaces, and how that's a direct line to the universe. So this for me would be things like landscape photography, people who like getting out there and being in those vast, grand open spaces. And that's then their input. But I'm thinking for someone like me who doesn't really do that type of photography, it might be interesting for me to go and do that and see what kind of input or what result I get from being in those environments. And what am I missing out on by never going out into those places? I'm generally indoors. I am, outside in fairly built up places. So it could be really good for me to have that direct line to the universe and go out into somewhere that is a little bit more like grand or vast and be isolated. Then there is the collective consciousness. So this is when you are out in amongst the world. So you're seeing people, you're seeing their human behavior. This to me instantly brought up ideas of street photography. So people that are really plugging into, how humans act and their behavior, what they do, the busyness of life, feeding off of that energy. And street photographers definitely need that input to be able to output. And I just really liked all of these examples, and I could so easily draw a line from them to photography. And I'm sure that other creative people that read the book could do the same with their medium, which is why I think this book is so wonderful and so popular. Then there is the third environment that Rick Rubin talks about, which is a direct plug-in to the culture. So this is one that probably a lot of us are doing first. So this is plugging into things like media, the internet, news, anything that is around you that's like popular and being like reported on or being put out. So we're all doing that all the time, but I don't think we're doing it very consciously. And he warns us in the book to be like with it and flow within it rather than be of it. So not wanting to follow trends and just copy and spit out the same thing, but rather flow within the culture and then go, okay, how can I have my own spin on this? What can I say about this? How can I respond to this? And how can I use this input for like my creative output? The third one is huge. What is art? I mean, who can answer this question ever in a succinct manner? It's such a huge question that so many of us have pondered and tried to answer. And I think Rick Rubin, just unsurprisingly, he's able to put it so beautifully in this book. So his definition of what is art is, what is true is that you are never alone when you're making art. You are in a constant dialogue with what is and what was. And the closer you can tune in to that discussion, the better you can serve the work before you. And I really think that how he puts this, what's considered art is simply an agreement and none of it is true. It's such a simplified version of it. He talks about the process of art awakening something in us. And to me, I think that's what art is. It's us working out how we feel and how to express our feelings through the art and then sharing it with other people to be in conversation with them in some way through the art or directly and hoping it reverberates for them. But also knowing that you can't control that and it's out there into the world and you just have to accept that. And to me, that's, a really great description of like art and its purpose, I suppose. I like how he describes it as a dialogue as well. I think as photographers, we are very much always in dialogue with the world around us, whether we have our cameras with us or not. We are constantly looking for moments, for things that could be interesting or we could make beautiful. And we're in dialogue with our subject matters all the time. This one was definitely one of my favorites. It made me feel super warm and fuzzy and very seen. Chapter number 4 is all about rules, and Rick Rubin talks about how rules lead to average work. Now, I will caveat this saying that obviously in photography, you need to learn how to use your camera, and there are many technical aspects that you're very well served to learn and use in your practice, but I don't think they should define your work. And I think that I do see a lot of people get really hung up on the right way to photograph or use flash or, whatever it is. And I think that can really hinder our creativity. Rubin points out that rules do direct us to average behaviors because we're following a path that's already been laid out. So you're following a rule book, essentially, something that's already been told by someone else. And if you do that and only that, you're probably going to produce something that's very unsurprising, very expected, very mediocre, very average. Yes, it might be technically perfect, but is that really what we're striving for as creatives and as artists? So consider what your work would look like if you bent the rules a little bit. If you know them and you are someone who likes to follow them, what could you do to kind of change that up? Take something out or use the wrong thing intentionally? And I really like these strategies that are peppered through the book. It's not overly prescriptive. It's just really good food for thought that makes you then go, maybe that's something I should try. The number 5 takeaway here for me was embracing a lack of knowledge. And I think that this one is probably one that a lot of people would disagree with, but I love that Rick Rubin included it. And I'm not very surprised because he seems like a loose person. You know, he said that he doesn't know how to really play an instrument, and he seems very unconventional as a music producer. He's very trusting of his instincts and all of those kinds of things. So I loved that he included this because he is proof that you don't need to know everything or know how to do everything. You can work from a feeling. He explains how a lack of knowledge can help an artist to break new ground, and that you don't need to know every aspect of something to make something that's really impactful and exceptional. And he even says how a lot of iconic creative things in our time have come from people not really knowing what they were doing. And you kind of have that naivety, that ignorance, but you're not particularly conscious of it. You're just following your intuition and you're curious. And I think we lose that a little bit when we focus too much on the rules and too much on becoming perfect. So if there is an aspect of photography that you would like to try or move into, or maybe there's another hobby entirely that's a creative thing that you want to give it a go, I would just jump in with both feet and see what happens without you having to research and learn every possible thing about it before you do it. Number 6 is a quote from a psychologist, Carl Rogers, and he said, "The personal is the universe." And Rick Rubin describes this in the book as something that's really powerful, and he points out that our special thing that we have to bring to our creative act is us. It's our point of view. So it's not about the camera, it's about you. It's about your vision. It's about that feeling, that intuition. All those kind of like magical aspects of things are what makes something truly impactful or iconic or, you know, really, really amazing. Rick Rubin talks about this being what separates art from a trade. So a trade is there to solve a problem. It's to serve someone. And art is there for the means of just expression, you know, and it's all about how we feel. It's not to tick a certain box or solve a specific problem for someone. It's not a service. This was a really great reminder that you are the superpower. You are the thing that makes your photography great. So don't focus too much on gear. Make sure you're always working from that kind of like inner place, because it will be more authentic and it will likely produce better photos too. If you aren't super aware of Rick Rubin, I will link a couple of different resources below. He is now on Substack, so you can follow him and his writing over there. He has 2 podcasts, I believe. I'll link some favorite episodes below. And he also has an amazing website called Tetragrammaton that is full of fun things for you to explore and get to know Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin knows how important a website is, and so do I, and so should you. If you are thinking about starting a website so that you have a corner of the internet where you can express yourself freely with no algorithms like on social media, then consider Squarespace for your website. Having a website is like proving to yourself and your creative act that you are serious. I link people to my portfolio that I host on my Squarespace website or my contact form daily, and it's been a game changer for my creative professional career. You don't need website building experience either. You can do this yourself on your own time. Just choose one of the award-winning templates that suits your needs. They have plenty of photography-specific options that are really beautiful and professional, so you can show off your work in a gallery, give your work the space it deserves. No annoying algorithms or cropped photos. Squarespace has all the options you need to grow and flourish as a creative too. So you can start with a simple website to showcase your photography or ideas, and then move from there and build an online store in just a couple of minutes to sell your presets, your guides, your prints, or your zines. You might want to start something like an email list or even a membership group as well, and you can do all of that on Squarespace. I love that I've been able to customize the form on my contact page so I can gather more information from potential clients and then reply to them in an easy way. Good news is you can try Squarespace for 14 days for free and start building that website you've been dreaming of. Just head to www.squarespace.com/Lucy Lumen to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using code Lucy Lumen. Everything is linked in the description if you want to check that out, and you also want to have a little look around at what Rick Rubin is up to. The whole point of view chapter was really great, but I loved the point about the reality of innovative ideas. Rick Rubin obviously has seen many different artists release albums and things into the world. So you kind of know that you can trust him when he says these things because he's seen so many different ideas either be really successful or maybe, flop and not be as great as they thought they were going to be. He explains in the book that innovative ideas are often very alienated and not well received in the beginning. And this can change over time. We've seen this with photographers like William Eggleston. In the beginning, nobody took him seriously because he was shooting color and no one really shot color. Everyone shot black and white and people didn't think he was a serious enough artist or photographer. He was kind of like laughed at, which is crazy to think of now. And if you think of how revered he is now and how much we all celebrate him and want to be like him, it's just funny how things can change so much with time. And Rick Rubin speaks specifically about how this happens in the culture. You will have people that will do things and people will be magnetized to it and absolutely love it. But then you'll also have a group of people or a large portion of people who hate that idea and, they feel pulled away from it. And you need that push and pull. If you want people to be magnetized to your idea and love your work, it's likely that there's going to be people that feel the exact opposite as well. If this doesn't happen, it's likely that you've just created something that's pretty mediocre and conventional and people just feel neutral to it or they're not even paying attention to it. So it was just such a good thing to keep in your mind. It's like you put something out there, you've taken a risk. There's just such a huge likelihood that even the people that, appreciate it, for all of them, there's going to be people that resist it, don't understand it, don't like it. And that's actually a good thing because it means your idea is different and innovative. As we move further through the book, Rick Rubin has some really great advice on kind of like how to get over the mindset and all of the like self-doubt, procrastination, all of those types of things that come into play towards the end of an art piece or a record or whatever it is that you are creating. So number 8 here, we're going to talk really quickly about commitment phobia. Rick Rubin talks about the inclination to constantly tamper with and change something right at the end when you know you're getting close to the finish date, the submission deadline, whatever it is. You start picking it apart and second guessing it, changing things, spending so much time on something that's really going to be sort of inconsequential really to the end result because you are panicking and you're worrying. And it is commitment phobia really, because you're now like, oh God, this is going to go out into the world. And you just want to either sort of destroy it or you want to try and like make it better because you've now noticed all these holes and all these things wrong. And I think this is like the biggest roadblock to most creative people. And he has such good advice in the latter part of the book to overcome this. He also so rightly points out that any artwork or anything that you see that's creative in the world, this is the result of that person being able to overcome that hurdle, which is huge. So imagine all the things that we haven't seen. Like imagine how many musicians have recorded things or books people have written and we don't know about them because they can't get over that hurdle of being able to just put it out into the world. I think the biggest takeaway in this chapter for me was Rick Rubin saying that this one thing that you're going to complete or do or share is not a reflection of you in your entirety as a creative person. This is just one moment in time. It's a time capsule of where you were at, how you were feeling, and what you created. There's always going to be another shot and another opportunity to do that. One simple thing like that does not define you as a creative person. And I think that helps to take the pressure off and is something worth remembering. Number 9 is regeneration. And I love the way that Rick Rubin put this. I don't particularly think that he's somebody who is sort of like online a lot. I don't think he's sharing online or spending a lot of time online particularly. He probably doesn't need to, but he seems to really understand the importance of like putting things out there and getting things out there and how difficult that is. And I think we all really struggle with that now, especially having access to it so much online, but then seeing the views, the likes, the metrics on everything, which is something that we once upon a time wouldn't have been able to see. So going right back to the start when we talked about the creative rhythm and being in touch with sort of nature and the universe, he talks about regeneration being this process of purging and kind of making room for the newness to come through, for the new ideas to grow and flourish. You have to first sort of get rid of things. So it's like if you had a cup and you just keep filling it up with unfinished ideas, it's going to overflow and you're going to lose them. And that's when they will, like we spoke about earlier, go out into the world and find someone else to kind of attach to. And then you'll be sitting there like, oh, I had that idea. Why didn't I do that? So it's really important to sort of flush them out and get them out, share them with the world, and then move on to your next thing. And not to do it to, serve the algorithm or, be on this hamster wheel of sharing all the time. I don't mean it like that. I mean just getting rid of it, even if it doesn't have to be, it can just be finishing it and applying to something with it, or printing something and it's just for you and you've got it in front of you. It's finished, it's done. You can sort of tick that off now. It's come to completion. That will likely lead to more motivation. And then you've left yourself open for newness, new ideas, and you can move on to other things. Otherwise, you will just become stagnant, messy, like too full of all this stuff, and you just need to get rid of it. If you can make regeneration a part of your process, I think you will become a stronger, more resilient, just better artist. And it's definitely helped me a lot. I'm sharing all the time and I'm in such a flow with it. And I just always know that there'll be new ideas and new times to share, new opportunities for me to show my creativity and share it with the world. Those were my main takeaways. I have linked this book below if you want to grab a copy. I I couldn't recommend it more highly for any creative person. It is really eye-opening and it's something that you could keep returning to and reading again and again and pick out, new things that resonate with you. So let me know if you've read this book, if you loved it, if you have any more book recommendations and things you'd like to see me talk about on the channel. Let me know and I will see you guys in the next video.